Kahalaliam la Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Bahashem Chaha Kodash. As it is written, let the elders that rule well become worthy of double honors, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine, which are the Presbyterian great millstone, beginning with the elder apostles, the elder bishops, and the elders on down. Peace and salutation to all the Akim of the hopeful elect. May Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Bahashem Chaha Kodash Brakatham. Yahweh is the true name of the Heavenly Father, whom the world ignorantly calls God. Yahweh means he to be, he is, he exists. This is the true power of heaven and earth, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. His name is Yahweh. And Yahweh is the true name of his only begotten Son, whom the world ignorantly calls JC. Yahweh means the deliverer or his savior. That's the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, and the Messiah that came to die for the sins of Israel. Alright, and Ruach HaKodesh is the Spirit Holy. These are the names that it's supposed to call upon and pray to, especially so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and only one the heathen, they may look like the heathen, but still then goes back to the patriarchy of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and father side. So when you pray, you say, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Ba'ashem HaKodesh, so they may have protection in those names. Okay, also may have, so they may be covered in those names. Shalom, Saints of Yasharallah. My name is Gabaga of the Hopeful Election from the Kenya Province in Toronto. And today is May the 7th, Thursday, May the 7th, another day closer to the deliverance of the letter of Israel and the destruction of Babylon the Great in the year of the Lord 2026. And this month's Shabbat falls on a Thursday. So tonight and even to tomorrow evening, that's when the Shabbat comes in. All right. I just want to say, so any day now, all her tuberculosis has gone to a time in the scriptures known as Jacob's trouble or Tazariah Ekob in the Hebrew. All right. Because ultimately, in the Hebrew, it tells you in scriptures that, words uttered in another tongue have not the same force. So that's why, we emphasize the Hebrew. Okay, so the Hebrew is, is part of the doctrine. So that's a right Iqua, which is Jacob's trouble, is the times of coming into now. Okay, and it's going to be a time of great distress, great trouble, great tribulation. Also a time of testing, a time like never before, where all hell breaks loose in society, and all structure, and rule in society breaks down. Okay, and basically people can take matters in their own hands. All right, and also it's going to be a time of great testing. Okay, where they're going to implement the mark of the beast, which is a chip. Okay, the charagma. All right, now we here tell you not to take that chip. Okay, and to stay faithful to Yahweh Shai to the very end. All right, and also at the same time, it's also going to, climax. The time of Jacob's trouble is going to climax when when that war, the time when nuclear destruction against happens, the war of Armageddon, where America and Israel are going to be destroyed. Okay, but ultimately Israel is going to be rebuilt back again. Okay, and it's going to be established as the kingdom as a headquarters of the kingdom of heaven, where our Lord Yahushua is going to reign forever. All right, so I want to say, so going into this video, let's go and play it.
Breaking news out of Milton, Ontario, where a judge has just found an Ontario couple guilty of murder in the death of a 12-year-old boy who was in their care and the torture of his younger brother. The boys, both Indigenous, both inside Ontario's child welfare system, and there are warnings about the graphic nature of these allegations, these assertions, and now a finding of guilt around child abuse. All right,
so this is going to be a video that I came across. I heard about this the first time on the radio, and basically it's an Ontario couple that were found guilty of a boy's murder and a brother's torture. And these boys were actually a so-called Indigenous, which will be of the tribe of Gad, okay, of the tribe of Israel. All right, and this is basically going to the fact that in this society, with Esau in power, the so-called white man, the wicked, he oppresses the fatherless and the widow. Okay, and this is going to go to the scriptures. This is against the scriptures. This is against the will of the Heavenly Father. You're not supposed to oppress the widow and the fatherless, but this is what Esau does. Okay, even besides this, when you go into the whole thing with the whole thing about especially among so-called black people, with child support. Okay, where it's basically benefits, from separating the father from the family. Okay, and therefore basically, having to where the so-called black community is completely destroyed because there's no father, their fathers are missing. Okay, so therefore now this gives, the enemy, okay, a room to come in and, and oppress, the people. Because when the father is not there, basically, the child and the mother, they're left, they're left unprotected. So therefore, Esau comes in and takes advantage of them, and ultimately, as you can see, this has led to the destruction of the so-called black community. All right, but that's because Esau Edom, had it where, he incentivized so-called black women to divorce their husbands, okay, so that they can get those benefits. But with those benefits, the child support thing, the thing about that is that Esau Edom actually, before even the woman gets the child support, Esau gets that cut from that, from that child support. When the man pays child support, that money is taxed by the government, and Esau takes a cut from the money, okay. So even with this case right here, where you have, basically there was these two lesbians that adopted these two brothers from the indigenous community, okay, and basically, they had them, as they were adopted, rather than they abused them, okay, and they tortured them, okay, to where one of the boys end up dying of starvation. Okay, and the other one was tortured by, ultimately, he survived. Okay, and now, they were found guilty because, they were brought in front of a court and they were found guilty of murder, okay, and torture, which this video is not going into. Let me go and get the scriptures right here. Like I said, going into the case with the fatherless and the widow. It's a book of stuff on let's go first into the law. So when you go to the book of Exodus 22, verse 22, and it reads, "Ye shall not afflict any widow or a fatherless child." But that's what Esau Edom does, like I said. This is all in society. Okay. Another one, it says, Deuteronomy 10 verse 18 says, "He doth execute judgment of the fatherless and widow, and loveth the stranger in giving him food and raiment." But that's Esau Edom does not do that. Okay, he takes advantage of the fatherless and the widow. Okay, to where, as you can see in this case, it was so bad to where, the child end up dying of starvation. And also another thing too about this video, the curses are upon our people, and even that's how even the people, the so-called indigenous people are part of the tribes, okay, because they're going through the curses too. Tells the scriptures that that these women, even the women of the so-called indigenous community, that they don't really take care of their youngs. Same thing as the so-called black women, because this is part of the curses, man, right? So let's keep going, get more scripture to that. See, it says, let's go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 24 verse 17, and it reads, "Thou shalt not pervert the judgment of the stranger," which the stranger in this case basically talks about a different, an Israelite from a different tribe that comes in to basically say, like, you have an Israelite of maybe from the tribe of Issachar that basically is in the tribe of Judah. So because it's not part of it's not of Judah, but it's the land of Judah. It's not supposed to afflict them or oppress them. Okay, it's not supposed to provide judgment against them. So the stranger in this case is talking about or could be even an Israelite foreigner. So thou shalt not pervert the judgment of the stranger, nor of the fatherless, right? Nor take a widow's raiment to pledge. But that's what Edom does, right? You see here. So it's supposed to take care of the fatherless and the widow. Even when you go into the law, when you add a farm, okay, and you did your harvest, it's supposed to only harvest it once, so that any remainder of the harvest that's left on the plants, can be used basically as a method or system of how do you call it? Damn, the word is I can't remember the word right now, but basically, it was like you have to you only harvest it once, and then the stuff that didn't get harvested is supposed to be for the poor. This is the book of Deuteronomy 24 verse 19, and reads, "When thou cuttest down thine harvest in thy field, and hast forgot a sheaf in the field, thou shalt not go to again to fetch it. It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow, that the Lord Yahweh thy power may bless thee in all the work of thine hands." Okay, let's get another one. Yeah, right here, there's the book of Deuteronomy 27 verse 19, and read, "Cursed be he that perverteth the judgment of the stranger." It's like, yeah, Yes, it says, cursed be he that perverteth the judgment of the stranger, fatherless, and the widow, and all the people shall say, Amen. That's right. Let's get this.
Let's turn to the CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick, who was just inside the courthouse, now outside, joining me now live. Megan, take us through guilty.
It was a very quick decision, David. Justice Clayton Conlon telling the court when court got underway that the reasons for his decisions are lengthy. The written decision, about 300 pages. So he told court he would not be going through all of his reasons. And he got straight to the point, telling the court that he was finding the two women guilty on all counts that they were facing. So they had been charged with first-degree murder, as well as multiple other charges in relation to the younger brother, including assault and failing to provide the necessaries of life. So the judge telling court that he did find that they unlawfully confined the younger boy, that they assaulted him with a weapon, that they failed to provide the necessaries of life, and that they did commit first-degree murder. When he said those words, David, there was an audible gasp in the courtroom, which was quite full of people, quite a few spectators here to hear the decisions. The defendants themselves, I was watching them closely for their reactions. One shook her head in disbelief. The other kind of jutting her neck out, as in she couldn't believe it either. Then not long after the decisions were given, the two defendants were put in handcuffs and led out of the courtroom. Also, it was an emotional scene in the courtroom. Those spectators there to hear the decisions, I saw some of them crying and some of them hugging each other afterwards. They are now, so those spectators still in the courthouse outside the courtroom milling about. We are hoping to hear from them and also trying to get our hands on the written decision, David, so we can see the reasons for the justice's findings of guilty on all counts that the two women were facing.
I can show you the two women. This is the two men right here, which are
Burgell McGinsey Personal Injury Lawyers has recovered hundreds of millions of dollars for car accident victims. If you've been injured, let our family take care of your family.
Burgell McGinsey 416-665-2000.
Milton, I'm John Woodward. Back to you.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Two women have been found guilty of killing a boy they were trying to adopt.
Becky Hamber and Brandy Cooney were charged with first-degree murder in the death of a 12-year-old. John.
Yeah, Michelle, there were gasps in the courtroom as the Justice Conlon read out the verdict, announcing he was going to go farther than the charges of failing to provide the necessaries of life and assault and convict the couple of first-degree murder. Now, the details that were heard in that courtroom were awful. The older boy, known as L because of a publication ban, died in a barren room of the basement of the couple's home. So skinny, first responders didn't understand how he could be so small at 12 years old. His brother testified and described years.
Yeah, this is the two women right here. Okay, the two women that you can see, they're both Edomites. Okay, and that's the hatred of Esau, Edom, man. It tells in the scriptures, that all wickedness is less. I'm just going to get that. Yeah, this book of Ecclesiastes 5 verse 19 in the Apocrypha, and it reads, all wickedness is but little to the wickedness of a woman. You see, and that's what these women did, man. Like, they, for one, you already know that, the so-called, lesbians, really they hate men, okay? And the hatred, that even of Esau, the hatred between Esau and Jacob, okay, mainly the hatred that Esau has towards Jacob, this is a biblical hatred. It's of a biblical proportion, all right? And, the women, of course, even the women hate, even the women hate our people. It's not just so-called white men. Even the women is just as guilty and as wicked as, as the so-called white men. Okay, these are both devils, right? It says, all the wickedness is but little to the wickedness of a woman. Let the portion of a sin fall upon her. And what's that? That's death, all right? And also at the same time, too, like I was saying, these curses fall upon our people. Okay, same way, the so-called black woman, he mistreats, her children. For one, we already know that, the whole thing about abortion is huge in the so-called black community, right? Because they really don't have any mother instincts. So this also goes into this also goes into the other tribes too. The so-called indigenous women, they be giving up their children for adoption. Okay, for one, usually that they're strong on drugs and alcoholism. Okay, so therefore, they give up their children for adoption, and most of these children, they get adopted by Edomite families, where usually they end up being raised and they turn out to be, to be moles, man, to be lesbians and happy boys, okay, right? Let's go ahead and get this. Go over Lamentation chapter 4, verse 2. It says, the precious sons of Zion, comparable to fine gold. And Zion represents the whole nation of Israel, which Zion means monument in the Hebrew, Tazayawan. So it says the precious sons of Zion, comparable to fine gold. How are they esteemed as earthen pitchers, the work of the hands of the potter? You see, so now here is the sons of Zion. They basically we're supposed to be the highest, the highest people on the earth, but now we are basically people just our men get shitted on, which is part of the curses, right? As verse 3, even the sea monsters draw out the breast, they give suck to their young ones. The daughter of my people is become cruel. You see, that's what this runs prevalent in the whole in amongst the tribes, okay, whether they be so-called Negroes, Latinos, or Native Americans, okay. It says that the daughter of my people is become cruel, like the ostriches in the wilderness, right? The tongue of the suckling child cleaveth to the roof of his mouth for thirst. The young children ask bread, and no man breaketh it unto them. You see, so like in this case, like I said, these children end up, the one died of of starvation, man. It said he was so skinny, at age 12, at the age of 12, he only weighed 48 pounds, I think it was, of 48 kilos. Okay.
Of abuse. The couple said they did what they did to protect the kids from themselves. They took the kids to the doctors, but the judge just didn't buy it. It was an emotional morning for everyone in the courtroom.
I mean, it was just horrific. The things that came out are absolutely horrific. Nobody should have gone through what those kids went through.
He was so smart, and he had such an old soul, and he was such a great person. And it really hurts to know that he won't get his dreams. It's just not fair. The system is so broken.
It still affects me because I don't know what else I could have done to help these kids, and I don't know. I'm sure there's other kids that this happens to too, and there's not enough being done, and there needs to be change. There needs to be policy put in place.
This system is broken because the wicked is in power, the wicked is in rulership, and there's nothing that the only thing that can be done is for the wicked to be judged and taken out of power. That's the only thing. That's the only way to change the system, to fix it. Okay, that's the solution. The solution is for Lord Yahweh to come back and destroy the wicked of the earth and take out this white man out of power and not put him in slavery. Because ultimately you're going to get the same judgment, that you're giving out. Let's go ahead and get this. Let's go back here. Let's see here. It was Psalms. Psalms, I think that's Joe right here. Okay. This is the book of Job 22 verse 6, and reads, says, Psalm verse 5 says, is not thy wickedness great, and thine iniquities infinite? Okay, talking about the so-called white man. For thou hast taken a pledge from thy brother for naught, and stripped the naked for the clothing. Thou hast not given water to the weary to drink, and thou hast withholden bread from the hungry. Right? But as for the mighty man, right, he had the earth, and the honorable man dwelt in it. Thou hast sent widows away empty, and the arms of the fatherless have been broken. Therefore snares are round about thee, and a sudden fear troubleth thee. You see, so because Edom has oppressed, the fatherless and the wicked. It's like the fatherless and the widow, because going into like the whole thing with the with child support amongst the so-called black community, okay, where Edom basically profits and benefits from the child support, okay, and this is part of his this is part of his oppression, okay. Says therefore snares are around about thee, and a sudden fear troubleth thee, or darkness that thou cannot see, an abundance of waters cover thee. Not the Most High in the height of heaven, and beholdeth the height of the stars, how high are they? And thou sayest, how doth the Most High know? Can he judge through the dark cloud? The clouds are covering to him that they seeth not, and he walketh in the circuit of heaven. Basically, the Edomites, they think that all these things, the Most High the Most High does not see these things, right? Hast thou marked the old way which wicked men have trodden, which were cut down out of time, whose foundation was overflown with flood, which say unto the Most High, depart from us, that we may and what can the Almighty do for them? Yet he filled their houses with good things, but the counsel of the wicked is far from me. Okay. Yeah, man. So ultimately, the Heavenly Father is going to judge, these Edomites for what they've done unto our people, man. This is part of the, this is part of the the gospel, the good news. You see, so all this is not for vain. Okay. So then I'm going in there. I want to say, Barat, have a Barat, have a shy. I want to say, come, Sharwallah, wa, abay babal, shalom, shalom, akim.